Hello everyone! As I said in my previous video, over the weekend I played two tournament games in classical time control, and it was the Croatia regional championship, sort of like qualifications for the Croatia team finals. And since I didn't know who my opponent was going to be in the first game, nor do I have the black or the white pieces, I didn't really prepare. We just came there, we had our coffee, and we checked out who our opponents were. So my opponent in the first round was international master from Bosnia, Muhamed Borić, and as I didn't prepare, I didn't really know what to expect. It was just here's your board, play some chess. So let's see how it went. And I didn't really have any remarks about my game. I didn't really make any mistakes, but as you'll see in the game, playing passively can be just as great of a mistake as actually making some blunder or a mistake when you face an international master. So he played d4, I played knight to f6, knight to f3, went for g6, and bishop to g5. He goes for the Torre attack. I went for the bishop immediately, knight to e4. He played bishop to h4 and the bishop to g7. e3, I castled, he played bishop to d3, I defended the knight, d5, c4, and here I played c6. I didn't really like this c6 move, but I don't know, I thought it was pretty solid. I didn't want to rush anything or push too hard, I just wanted to see what he would do. So he castled, and here I played knight to a6. In positions like this, usually I would go for h6 and g5, but I don't know, something about this game didn't feel right about doing this, although this is a perfectly reasonable idea. Simply h6, and after he develops, I can push g5, bishop g3, captures, and then decide either to capture on c4 or go for bishop to e6. But okay, in this game I played knight to a6, and I played this move with the idea that, okay, I'm threatening knight b4, his bishop on d3 doesn't really have any retreat squares, he could go to c2, but then I can also capture it. So if he allows this, he would either have to capture on e4, which doesn't seem likely, or he would have to retreat to e2, which is the last active square for the bishop, and I don't mind playing a move to get his bishop to a last active square. I thought that he would play something like a3, I would go knight to c7, gain more control of the d5 square, and then maybe push on the queen side, who knows, depending on what he plays. But here he played c captures on d5, I played c captures on d5, and he went queen to b3. So I didn't really like the idea of going knight to c7 now, so instead I played queen to d6. I thought it was a very active square for the queen, and I didn't really see anything wrong with it. I don't mind bishop to g3, I can always simply move the queen, and his bishop is pretty useful on h4 at the moment, as it is eyeing my e7 pawn that still hasn't advanced to e6, and he's kind of preventing the rook from coming to d8, as then I can't even push e6. So I didn't think he would go for bishop to g3. He went knight to c3, and now, okay, now maybe I should worry about something like bishop to g3 followed by knight b5, first capturing, but yeah, it's not really likely, as if he captures my knight, then I capture, b captures on a6, he can no longer go knight b5, and again, if he goes knight b5 and bishop to g3, my knight on a6 is guarding the c7 square, so I didn't really worry about this much. I played knight captures on c3, he played b captures on c3, and here I finally went e6. He played rook f to c1, and rook f to c1 is, of course, a natural move, either preparing c4, or the rook will be very useful on the c file if it ever opens. And here I really thought about a lot of things, and I thought about how I could develop. I mean, I can never go bishop to d7 to c6. If I could do this, I'd be alright, but my b7 pawn would be hanging, and I couldn't really find any reasonable ideas about how to develop here. So after some, I don't know, maybe even 20 minutes of considering this position, I played knight back to b8. So this looks a bit weird, but my knight really isn't doing anything on a6. So I thought I'd play knight to b8. Interestingly, this is the engine's favorite move. So I'm very happy about that, but actually when I played this move I was already down to maybe like 20 minutes, and he was, I think he had like an hour or maybe a bit less than an hour. But I thought I'm gonna go knight to b8, next I'm gonna play knight to c6, and then I know he has a better position. But if I can play knight c6, maybe push a6 and b5 or something, then I thought maybe I could hold this position. But here, after this knight to b8, he immediately played queen to b4. And here, now when I saw this queen to b4 move, I saw that my queen doesn't really have a good square to go to. I didn't want to allow any moves like queen to c6. Then I'm just getting in the way of all the attacks. Maybe bishop to b5, knight e5. If I went queen to b6, he can still exchange it, and I do get the open a file, well, the semi-open a file, but then he has the b file for his rooks, and I have doubled b pawns here. I didn't really like that. So I decided to trade queens. Queen captures, he played pawn captures, and here I played f6. And I was very happy about this f6 move, as I thought, okay, I'm kind of disturbing the bishop on h4, he can't really go anywhere, he will have to go to g3 at some point, and I'm really locking this f3 knight out of the game here, since now the knight doesn't really have anywhere to go. He would have to think something else, like maybe knight d2 to b3 and then to c5, but I was gonna play b6 at some point anyway, so I wasn't really worried about this. So although I did manage to lock his knight out of the game, he does have this beautiful open c file for the rook. So I thought if I could maybe counter that, then maybe I could hold this position. He played bishop to g3. Rook to c7 immediately isn't such a great idea for white, because I can push a6, prevent him from pushing b5, and next I will play knight to c6, locking this rook out so he can't connect rooks, and with bishop to f7, I will be with rook to f7 I will be able to exchange this rook and then maybe bring the other rook into the game. But here he played bishop to g3, and now instead of going a6 first as was my plan, I decided to go for another plan. Such is the way of chess. I played knight to c6. With the idea of attacking the pawn on b4, I knew that he would push it to b5, and then I thought knight to a5 and b6. And okay, he did push b5, and I went knight to a5. Knight to b4 is an interesting move, but in the end, it definitely favors white. After he moves the bishop, the only way for me to prevent losing a piece, because after he pushes a3, my knight has nowhere to go, is to push e5, and after he pushes a3, e4. Now I created an outpost for the knight on d3, but he can just ignore this capture, and after I capture, he can push b6, and this is a much better position for white. After I block, he can go rook a5, go rook a1 and push b5 next, and white is definitely breaking through here. So after this b5, I played knight to a5 with the idea of going b6, maybe bishop to b7 finally develop, as even if he pushes rook to c7, then I can play bishop to b7, as my knight from a5 will be guarding the bishop. I knew that it was a very passive position, but again, you know, I don't mind holding a passive position if I can. So he played rook to c7, and I played rook to f7 now, first offering an exchange of rooks. He played rook a to c1, I played rook captures, and now b6, with the idea of playing bishop to b7. So now, as he doesn't really have a useful move yet, I mean, his bishop is very nice on d3, his dark square bishop is beautiful on g3, but this knight isn't really doing anything. So he played knight to d2, trying to activate it. I played bishop to f8, as my bishop wasn't really doing all that much on g7. I mean, it was actually doing all that much. While my bishop was on g7, he's actually preventing him from attacking the h7 pawn, as he does have a bishop on d3, a rook on c7, and he will push h4 and h5, trying to grab both of these pawns. So, although my bishop isn't like really active on g7, it actually does have a purpose. But okay, I tried to activate it even more, as I was passive for the entire game. I wanted some activity. He pushed h4, and I went a6 here, trying to at least open up the A file for me. He played A4, I played pawn cap, first I played bishop to B4, now forcing his knight back. He played knight back to F3, and here I played pawn captures. He played bishop captures, and there really wasn't need to do this. I mean, probably just playing passively with bishop to B7 and maybe trying some rook to C8 ideas was much better for me, and perhaps if I continued like this, I could maybe hold the position. But I played A captures, he played bishop captures, and here I was very low on time. I had like, I don't know, probably like something like 5 minutes or maybe 4. Don't really remember. And here you can see that after his bishop comes to B5, there's really no way to develop for black here. If I play something like, because he's threatening bishop to E8, then he has some checking ideas here. This pawn will force its way to H5, exchange here, and then create a weakness on H7. So if I try to go back, bishop to F8, to again put my bishop on G7, then I'm like extremely passive. He can go bishop E8, and after I block, he can go bishop to D6, and now with his bishops, with his bishop pair slicing my position like this would be unplayable. So after this bishop captures on B5, I played bishop to A6, hoping either to exchange bishops or to maybe activate my light square bishop, but here I missed a crucial move. He simply played bishop to D7, and here I saw that there is no way for me to defend the E6 pawn. As it's such a trivial mistake, but I was considering so many things, I simply missed the obvious one. And you know, the time pressure didn't help. Of course, if I defended with king f7, he has this very nice discovery, grabbing my rook on a8. So here I probably I could have resigned here, but I tried a couple more moves, at least to try and create some complications. I played e5, he captured. Now I played bishop to c4, with the idea of maybe somehow pushing this, and my light square bishop will be guarding my king. He played bishop to e6 check, I moved the king, and now he captured on f6. I played bishop to c3, simply not allowing his bishop to come to e5 to checkmate my king, but here, unfortunately, he has a checkmate in 2 moves, and feel free to find it. It's not very complicated, but it's also very nice. So I hope you did find it, even without pausing the video. Here he played knight to g5, and in this position I resigned the game, as there is no defense against rook captures on h7. So yeah, an interesting game. I felt, you know, I didn't feel that bad about losing, because you know, I came unprepared, and since I'm like really terrible at openings, you know, I was pretty satisfied with my game. This bishop to a6 move was the first big mistake of the game on move 25, so not a bad thing for me. But you know, like I said, even if up to this point there were no moves that could be classified as mistakes, playing passively was the biggest mistake I probably could have done, as you know, it's simply better to maybe I managed to maintain material equality throughout the entire game up until this mistake, but you know, it cost me so much activity that there was really nothing I could do. So even this you know, mere control of the C file was like he was up a piece. So yeah. That's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it and maybe learned something from it. You know, don't play passively, play actively, as if you play passively, then you will maybe have one good move to play. If you play actively, then you will have a variety of moves that can create complications for your opponent. So yeah, yeah, I do hope you enjoyed it. And I would like to thank Sachin Chenoy, Gary Carpentier, and Matt Beckwith. Beckwith, for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon with my second game from this championship. So thank you all, and I will see you soon.